Hey everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Marvel. I'm Petter, and today we're continuing that Agatha All Along talk, and we're talking episode 7, so spoilers ahead if you haven't watched it, and just the writing and groundwork that was used to create this episode. This is going to be a little bit different from some of the videos that I've done previously. I did kind of the same thing with the teen in episode 6 and that story, but this one is, I think, very unique, and I want to call out just the difficulty of doing this sort of episode, because this episode progresses along a timeline, but we know that the timeline is flawed. We start out with the progression along the timeline, not understanding kind of how it's jumping back and forth. And then we start to understand Lilia's powers. Her powers are to experience time kind of out of order. That allows her to see into the future. That allows her to understand what's coming and what's going on, but not always in a way that makes that much sense. And I love how it not only is showing like different times based off of what we've seen in the episodes, but going back into her past, seeing her taking a lesson, having a lesson later on in her life, but it's one of her early lessons with her teacher. And to have that work out of order, and for her to still be getting taught, even though she knows a lot of what's coming up in her life, I think is really well done. And I want to call it out too, because this is not something that is easy to write. I do some writing, fiction and otherwise, on the side, and I'm coming up with ideas about how I can use this, and I have a particular setting where I kind of want to use this in Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but I'm thinking about the amount of work that I'm going to have to do to set this up, and the groundwork that I have to lay for people to understand this. And I think that's the groundwork part was done well, but then getting to this episode and telling the story out of order but in order is just really interestingly done. And to have kind of this narrator who's not always showing us what we need to see in the time that we need to see it, I just love how they managed to make that work. And let's talk about the theory that I put out last week, or it might have been the beginning of this week. Actually, no, I think it was last week. I think it was off of episode 5. There was the theory going around that maybe episode 5 hadn't truly happened. It was just Lilia seeing a vision of what could come. And people kind of honed in on the lines of no, no, Alice, and no, no, Alice, don't, I should say, and then try and save Agatha, and putting those two together. And I thought that was really well done. And I appreciate it a lot. The fact that, one, it's something that people could notice and call out. But for myself watching it, I'm glad that, well, I got some of it right. Well, I think a lot of people got some of it right about this idea of, okay, those were visions. Those are going to be meant to be together, the understanding of how they were meant to be together was so far off. It means that the show is still playing with me and playing with everybody in interesting ways. And now we've had a number of reveals to this point, and there's 2 episodes left. And I think the show is going to continue to play with us in some interesting ways. And the question is, like, okay, are we going to see Lilia Calderou anymore? Are we going to see her in a flashback or anything like that? Or is her character, and is Alice Wu Gulliver, are they done? Are their stories done at this point? Or is there a chance that they show up again? And I'm going to get more into that in a future video here coming out later today on how I think the final 2 episodes are going to go, or at least some different theories on them, because I think it could go in a number of different ways. But the question is, would it lessen the impact of the event, basically, that we had in this episode? Would it lessen the impact of Lilia sacrificing herself and to kill the Salem 7? And I think it would, but I think there are ways around it that may not, at least quite as much. And I think they even laid some groundwork in this episode that will get paid off in the next 2 episodes with the parting words and kind of the placement of the characters on the tarot reading to understand who they are going forward. I'm not going to dive into all of that now, but let me know your thoughts on this episode. Obviously, I had my first impressions video. That one I keep higher level. Here, I dug into it a little bit more just because I wanted to talk about that complexity of story that they created and handled so well in this episode. But yeah, like I was saying, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. If you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. And check out the other videos that I've been putting out, different theories on this about Rio's character and the reveal that she's death. That video came out today, as well as then the theories as to how this series is going to end. And if you want to check out our additional videos, we do videos around news and rumors, which planning on picking those up a little bit more once we're wrapping up Agatha All Along here, but then also do videos on Marvel trading cards and Marvel comics that are coming into my collection, things like that. And if you want to, final thing, check out the full podcast where we're going to go into this episode 7 of Agatha All Along, in a whole lot more detail. That comes out every Monday night, Tuesday, and you can find it here on YouTube. Click on the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and then the podcast tab, and you can catch up on the previous videos and theories that we had on, podcast episodes and theories that we had on Agatha All Along to see what we've gotten right throughout this, as well as then hear our conversation as to what's to come. Or you can find the podcast wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. But with that, we'll see you next time.